I'm Greg Grogan, and welcome to this clash of ideas and leadership put forth by the top contenders in Congressional District 2. Texas 2 encompasses Humble, Kingwood, slices through Spring, taking in portions of Cy-Fair, Spring Branch, and River Oaks. Vying to succeed the retiring Ted Poe, Democrat and native Houstonian Todd Litton. Educated at Duke, Rice, and UT, Litton left a career in the investment sector to lead nonprofits serving our community. He and his wife, Jennifer, are proudly parenting 2 daughters and a son. Representing the Republican Party, Lieutenant Commander Dan Crenshaw, a retired Navy SEAL wounded in combat during the 3rd of 5 deployments. Driven to continue his service, Crenshaw earned a master's in public administration from Harvard, and with his wife Tara, returned to his native Texas. With that, let's begin. At the core of President Trump's border security initiative lie 2 components: a massive 2,000-mile border wall and a zero-tolerance enforcement policy for those who seek to enter this country without permission. Dan Crenshaw, you have said when it comes to controlling entry, barriers matter. So is the wall worth the investment?
Greg, yes, it is. I mean, look, we're looking at a situation right now that is completely unsustainable. You know, at the highest rate of illegal crossings, we were like 1.6 million. Democrats like to point out that that's the lowest rate ever since last year, but that's still over 400,000. That's really unsustainable. It's unsustainable for our law enforcement, our border patrol, our court system, our education, our school system. It's unsustainable for our healthcare system and our emergency rooms. So we have to do something, and it did create a real crisis on the border, which we saw earlier this year. No one wants to see families ripped apart. In fact, Republicans put forth legislation to stop that practice. Democrats opposed it. And it's unclear why. I think for what we see a lot on the Democrat side is this sort of moral superiority where we're going to help everyone, okay? But in the end, they don't actually help anyone, and because what actually happens is it encourages human trafficking. It encourages drug trafficking. This is bad for illegal immigrants. For paying tens of thousands of dollars for coyotes to actually get them across the border. It's not good for anybody. It's especially not good for legal immigrants either. All right. Now, my stepmother's a legal immigrant. She cherishes her citizenship. I'm pro-legal immigration. My priority will be, let's look for ways together to actually fix our legal immigration system, make it better. Republicans want to have that conversation. We want to have that conversation about what do we do with the dreamer population. All right, but we have to secure the border first, and that's a wall where that makes sense. That's electronic surveillance where that makes sense. It's more patrols where that makes sense, especially along the rivers. So we need to give our Border Patrol agents the resources they need. You have to stop people from crossing from point A to point B and make our system sustainable again. Texans are on the front line on this issue, and they have to be able to trust their government to protect our own sovereignty. I think that's a very reasonable thing to do. So let's get something that's sustainable and a system that we can trust.
Todd Litton, you oppose both the wall and the current zero-tolerance policy. What would you support in place of that?
Well, first and foremost, Greg, I believe we've got to secure our border. We can't have open borders. Nobody's for open borders. But immigration is an area where we have this real strong partisan divide. And it's really symbolic, I think, of how and why Washington is broken. You've got one side, and Dan was among these people. Hashtag build the wall in all caps on his Twitter feed. This was something he ran on very strongly. I don't support the wall at all, to be clear. If we're going to build a wall, let's build a wall to stop hurricanes down and protect the port. That's a great national security issue to take on. But I think we've got to look at a way to move forward. Again, when Dan got in this race, I mean, he's been with the Freedom Caucus. He's been, with the Tea Party on these far-right issues. And I think it's something that really is, again, indicative of how Washington is broken. People want us to move forward here in Houston, among all places. This is a place where people come to build a better life for themselves and their families. Let's start with the Dreamers. Over 70% of Texans support finding a way forward for the Dreamers. Over 70% of Americans are the same way. That's where we've got to start to move forward on. My kids had, their 6th grade math teacher was a Dreamer. An amazing person who came here when he was 3 years old, was brought here by his mom when he was 3 years old. He's an incredible part of the the school. We've got to move forward on that, but we can't move forward in a hyper-partisan way. And that's what I hear too much of coming from Washington, D.C. right now. And I think, frankly, Dan's been a part of that. I mean, when he got involved, too, Dan, when we talked about this in the past, too, you've sent $100,000 to D.C. PAC. You've benefited from, close to $1 million of Super PAC money supporting your efforts down here. So looking at that, how are we going to move forward? It's not in a hyper-partisan way. It's not with a Freedom Caucus. It's not with a Tea Party. It's working together. That's what our community is about all down here in Houston. That's what we've got to do when it comes to immigration. People come here to build a better life for themselves and their families. When you really look at it, too, about 40% or more of the people who are here, quote-unquote, illegally have overstayed their visas. These aren't people who, came across from the wall. This is not something we need to be stoking that fear button on in our country. Let's move forward in a constructive way. I believe Houston can help lead the way on that.
Dan Crenshaw, 30-second rebuttal.
Well, it talks about not being partisan, but he just made up some facts right there. I haven't sent my campaign money anywhere. I've promised to raise money for fellow Republicans. I haven't sent it anywhere. Listen, what I also heard a lot of was value signaling without any solutions actually offered. If you want border security, then help fund the president's proposals. When the president talks about the wall, he actually is talking about, yes, a physical wall. Again, where that makes sense. And also, it's in the line items when he actually does this. Let's fund border security because it sounds like all Texans want that. You have to start there. You have to tackle the source of the problem and actually help stop illegal immigration.
Next topic. The current opening on the Supreme Court has been described as the swing vote, dictating the continuance of or reversal of critical standards, including Roe versus Wade. Todd Litton, if you had the opportunity, would you vote for Judge Brett Kavanaugh?
I've been thinking a lot about this in particular, Greg, just the last week, and seeing Dr. Ford's, what I thought very compelling, very courageous testimony that she gave last week gives me great pause on moving forward with Judge Kavanaugh. And I would not vote to support Judge Kavanaugh, to be clear. His response, and there are other allegations, too. I understand that he's upset and defensive about what's going on, but again, I found her testimony to be highly compelling. And I believe at this point we need a full FBI investigation, not some partial investigation. This is a lifetime appointment to the United States Supreme Court. This shouldn't have a high bar to be put on that court. This should have the highest bar to be put on that court. And what we saw with Judge Kavanaugh's testimony and how he, frankly, I think at best dodged some answers, maybe stretched the truth or was inconsistent. Frankly, I think lied on some answers about what was going on in his past life. Maybe some small things initially, but could lead to bigger things. Again, the highest bar for a lifetime appointment. That's what we're for. There's no rush. We had 8 justices on the Supreme Court for months, about 2 years ago when Justice Scalia passed away. We do not need to rush this. And it's unfortunate how partisan the Supreme Court has become. And I look back to, Merrick Garland never got a hearing. That doesn't mean we should be trying to delay and have tactics that maybe aren't respecting people's privacy or things of that nature as well. But I have real concerns about Judge Kavanaugh's judicial temperament, as well as him being, frankly, somewhat loose with the truth in some smaller matters that could also signal some looseness in the truth with some larger matters. We have to think back, too, a year ago is when Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too movement really took off. And I think back to Justice Thomas and Anita Hill. We've got a long way to go to have equality for women and men in this country.
Dan Crenshaw, same question to you. Would you vote for Judge Kavanaugh?
Well, we're going to see that vote play out today. I honestly can't believe we're using those same old tired talking points, and to compare Merrick Garland's, which was stopped via the process, versus what's happening to Judge Kavanaugh right now and the absolute ruining of his life. To compare those two on the same moral footing, I think is crazy. There's 2 victims in this. All right, there's Dr. Ford and there's Brett Kavanaugh. Now, the investigation is wrapping up. All right, we're seeing no corroboration for any of these claims. I think it's pretty obvious from the beginning this has been a complete political sham. This has been, we maybe expected this to happen, but we didn't really think it would go that far. There's a third victim in all of this, actually, and it's just our justice system. It's this idea that, do we value due process or not? Do we value the presumption of innocence? Are we going to let partisan politics overcome the presumption of innocence? I mean, that's a much deeper question. You know, just because there's questions raised, you're saying basically that now we have to stop everything. Well, Democrats are the one raising the questions, and they absolutely manipulated the process in order to do so. And you have to ask the other question, like, why would they do this? Why is this so important to Democrats? And I think they have a fundamentally